Welcome to the WellLIFE Podcast. We have a special guest today who is so awesome that I've invited her to be co-host of the show. Her name is Pamela Tames, and she is a seasoned brand strategist and content creator with over 30 years of experience launching market-leading companies in the health and wellness space. And after a stint in working with the pharmaceutical industry, she saw firsthand how the medical industrial system is organized to profit from our being sick. So now Pamela is on a mission to help people take charge of their health. As co-host of the WellLIFE Podcast, she combines her sharp investigative skills with a deep curiosity, and she'll be bringing you practical strategies and conversations with innovative thinkers and healers in the wellness space today. So if you're one of those people who is struggling with a chronic condition, or you have a loved one that suffers from a chronic condition, and you are tired of hearing that there's nothing you can do to cure it or to relieve your own symptoms naturally, we are here to shed some light on what is out there today that can help. Because nothing feels better than being healthy. So stay tuned because this is going to be an episode you won't want to miss. Let's grow. Welcome to the WellLIFE, a podcast dedicated to embracing all aspects of healthy living. Going beyond diet and fitness, we'll cover a broad spectrum of wellness, bringing together the best in holistic living and mindful practices so you can create a well-rounded approach to a healthier lifestyle. I'm your host, Sheila Alston, and I'm the founder of a wellness real estate marketing company called Healthy Home Media. And our co-host is Pamela Tames. She's a seasoned brand strategist and content creator with over 30 years of experience, launching market-leading companies in the health and wellness space. Together, we are on a mission to help you take charge of your health. So we'll be bringing you everything from alternative healers to healthy home strategies so you can learn and experience different healing modalities for yourself and know what to do in your home environment to thrive. True well-being isn't about losing weight. It's your birthright. And it's about discovering that you are in charge and in control of what you bring into your home and into your life. Get ready to learn something new each and every episode. Tune into the WellLIFE, where nothing feels better than healthy, vibrant living. Let's grow. Welcome, Pam. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so happy to be talking with you, Sheila. This is so cool.
I know, but this is just going to be so great. I want everyone to learn all about you and your background and stuff. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what happened that made you so passionate about health and wellness.
Well, you went over my background in science and in branding, and I probably branded about 50 companies. Most of them have been in the healthcare space, which means I saw how the sausage got made, and it wasn't pretty a lot of times. And you see the kind of information, the biases, the data that gets put into the brand, and what comes out the other end is supposed to be very palatable to, a consumer. But there was a huge disconnect between what was really going on with the drug and what people thought they were going to get. So that was my background. And then layer into that two sets of problems that all manifested hormonally. The first one, we pay the price for things that happen to us in our youth. So the first one was an eating disorder, anorexia, and then bulimia in my early teens. And I essentially, through the anorexia, wiped out my endocrine system. Now, everything came back online when I regained some weight, but it was still really fragile. Fast forward decades, I go into menopause early. And this triggered a whole new set of problems because I had no idea what was going on. I was in my mid-30s. Suddenly I was in menopause, but I didn't connect. Yeah, it was way early.
Yeah.
I didn't connect what I was going through because it manifested with anxiety predominantly to being in menopause, even though I wasn't, I clearly was in menopause. I wasn't getting a period. So I had this innate mistrust of the pharmaceutical industry because of what I had done and what I'd seen. And then I started having these problems. And I think the one thing that got me through was this conviction that there is no one, and this is true for all of us, there's no one that knows our bodies the way we know them. And that is a great power. And if you can trust your body to give you the signals and then begin to learn how to sort of decode those signals, you can figure out a lot. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be intimidated by the healthcare system that is operating from a place of bias most of the time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that conviction, and I'm going through all these symptoms. I I don't really know what's going on. So I start researching. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, because of my science background, research took the form of going to medical talks,
Mm-hmm.
scientific talks. I wanted to know what was happening on the front lines.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I show up at this continuing medical education talk in Phoenix, Arizona. I end up sitting beside a research endocrinologist. His name is Dr. Chris Hewitt. And he was studying all sorts of things related to endocrinology. And he was also the essentially private researcher to John Sperling, who owned Apollo and University of Phoenix. So this was a multi-billionaire,
Mm-hmm.
and Dr. Hewitt was tasked with essentially keeping him alive. So I
Mm-hmm.
happened to sit beside Dr. Hewitt, who is the most eccentric scientist I have ever met in my life. Somehow we got on the topic of menopause. I really don't know why. I think he asked me why I was at that talk, and it had
Mm-hmm.
something to do with hormones. So I explained. I was trying to figure out what was going on with my body. And he said to me, menopause is the harbinger of death. That as soon as you go into menopause, you may as well set yourself up for a very quick decline into oblivion and then death. And I was so disturbed by that, I
Yeah.
couldn't focus on anything else.
What?
I know. It was like he was serious. Like he wasn't kidding me, but he was like really disturbed that I'd gone into menopause so early.
Yeah.
And so I was rattled. I got his phone number and I chased him down. And what happened after that was essentially a year of sitting with him, going through all the medical data, all the clinical data
Mm-hmm.
that was emerging around women's use of hormones. And he always said to me, look, we're going to review the data. I'm going to teach you how to understand these trials. And whatever the data says, good or bad, yes or no to hormones, that's what I would recommend you do. So I thought that makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
intuitively, I got it. And scientifically, he made me understand how to think it through. So the the what was also going on at the time we were looking at the papers together was the Women's Health Initiative. And it's been talked about so much that I think most women who have looked at menopause are just bored with the whole idea. But essentially, a giant trial was conducted on women and the effect hormone use would have on their health outcomes. They got a lot of things wrong. They made conclusions that scared women. The majority of women who were on hormones at the time, we're talking, standard uh, pharmaceutical hormones for menopause, stopped taking them. And then they deconstructed the data. They started segmenting it, they reanalyzed it. And today, they've essentially reversed their position. So they've
Hmm.
gone from saying hormones cause heart disease and blood clots and breast cancer to hormones protect women from all cause mortality. They're a benefit when it comes to osteoporosis, heart disease, and dementia, even though that's up for debate as
Well, so
well.
then
There's
who do you
there's
even
still
believe if there's like data that proves both sides, right?
exactly the problem. And so at the time, though, when Chris and I were going through the data, he was able to sort of segment and understand the nuances of the data that I couldn't possibly. And he saw beyond the negative conclusions. And he said to me, look, the data is positive. You're going to benefit from going on estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And
Mhm.
I got to the point where, like, as you say, there was a lot of negativity around it, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it because he convinced me. When you see the data, it's
Mhm.
hard to argue with it the way he showed it to me. So I was lucky enough to get access to his physicians on his team. A woman wrote me medical scripts. I had no idea how lucky I was to be getting scripts for bioidentical hormones at the time because no one was writing them. It
Mhm.
was next to impossible to get a doctor who even understood how to work with hormones. So
Mhm.
go on hormones, my life turns around. Like
Wow.
it's overnight. You know, especially with the estradiol, the estrogen, and I stayed on them, and I have been on them for over 2 decades now.
Wow.
Now the world has sort of caught up, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of positive regard for going on hormones. However, there's a lot of physicians who have not caught up to the data. So it's still very difficult to get uh, hormones for women. So that was a whole experience that took me through a lot of time, a lot of learning. Chris and I eventually wrote a book called Ride the Pink Elephant. It was called Pink Elephant because to me, menopause was the pink elephant in the
Mhm.
room. No one wanted to talk about it. Now
Mhm.
we have, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow and other celebrities who started menopause websites, and they're pushing a whole bunch of products at women to help treat the menopause. But at the time, it was virtually unheard of. So that was the first journey. The second journey is going on now, and it's even more complicated, it seems. And that has to do with thyroid.
Mhm.
So many women have low thyroid. And frankly, I don't know how you couldn't have low thyroid these days, given the level of stress and the
Mhm.
effect it has on adrenal dysfunction, which
Mhm.
in turn can lead to a lot of hypothyroidism. So that's that's a story that's unfolding. But the net of it all was I came to the conclusion after working with so many doctors and looking through so many trials that if you don't make a decision to take responsibility, and I mean like 100% responsibility for your health, you're going to be lost. Like you said, the papers don't agree, the data doesn't agree. Many physicians are not up to date on what's happening on the front lines of research. So you really have to navigate through and use your own sense of what is right for you. And in the end, it's a lot of trial and error. You know, I
Right.
mean, you got to jump in and say, I'm gonna see how this feels for me. So
Right.
that was a real challenge.
So many people, I think, it's you just trust what the doctor says. And,
Hmm.
remember, they're having to lay everything out on the table because of liability, right? So they can't, sometimes they're not supposed to give you hope because, if it doesn't turn out for you, you're going to sue them. So they have to tell you all the bad things that can happen. And if you hear all the bad things and you think that's what's going to happen, literally your mind is so powerful, you can go down that road, right? You're giving all of your power away to somebody else who's telling you what your destiny is and, what's going to happen to you when really our body has an innate ability to heal. And, even if you don't believe that, like you don't have to do anything when you scrape your hand, it's going to heal itself. Like you're not telling your body to heal that cut, right? It wants to heal. And so if it's doing something that's not, if you've got a chronic condition of some sort, it's not that your body doesn't want to heal, it's that you're doing something. And I firmly believe that giving your power away from somebody else and feeling disempowered and feeling like there's nothing you can do and feeling like a victim, those stress feelings just make things worse. Like they don't make things
Yes.
better. So, for anybody who doesn't have a science background or you know, they don't have a researcher to talk to, how do they know what to do and how do they tap into, like, it can just be so confusing that how do you know what your intuition is saying or what you should be looking for?
It's such a great point, and I want to pick up on what you said about healing. We are genetically programmed to heal, like
Mm-hmm.
from the level of our spirit to our mind to our body. It's all one system, and it is completely beautifully engineered to
Mm-hmm.
heal. So a lot of the time we have to get out of our own way, and all these sort of external modalities, pharmaceuticals we introduce can often get in the way of healing. So,
Mm-hmm.
great question about how do you get to the point where you really can trust your intuition and you're sort of seeing a path through the data. Um, I It's been challenging. I won't diminish the difficulty of that. I mean, I had to have that conviction that I can help myself because recently every doctor I had been to prior to finding a nurse practitioner just recently to help me with my hormones, they all told me that they would convince me that I should not be on hormones and that it was going to cause breast cancer. And as you're saying, so they're disclosing this as though they have some insight into what's really gone on. And I would challenge them and say, well, I'm all ears. Like if you know something or you've read a paper I haven't, please refer me to it. And this nurse practitioner is the only one who actually had a paper sitting on her desk.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw her just recently, and she said, you got to read this because it's 2024 and it says hormones support and protect women from all types of mortality. It improves everything basically. So that was a challenge. And I even had a doctor say to me, look, um, I don't have any data to support it. And I got an email from her later asking me to not continue being her patient. She essentially fired me from her practice
Really?
because I challenged her. So they
Mm-hmm.
don't like to be challenged.
Mm-hmm.
So what I had to understand was when you go into, say, PubMed, and you put a topic in, say, estrogen or bioidentical hormones, you get up a whole bunch of papers. Most of them have titles you're not even going to understand because they deal
Mm-hmm.
with mechanism of action. So you're going
Mm-hmm.
to want to go into what are called clinical trials. And
Mm-hmm.
these are studies involving people. And there's a control group that doesn't get the active drug, and then there's the active or the treatment arm. The first thing and the most important thing is to check the source. Is the paper reputable?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, a lot of journals get a lot of funding from the pharmaceutical industry these days. A lot of research papers are not replicated, the findings are not validated. So you really it gets really tricky there. So let's
Mm-hmm.
say you find a paper that's from New England Journal of Medicine or the Lancet, which is European, and it looks like a decent study. And you look at the study design, you look at the number of people, were there enough people in the trial? Was it designed in such a way that it actually could prove what it claims to prove? Um, and then you look at the bottom of the paper, and it's going to tell you what the interests are and who funded the research. And I almost always dismiss findings from papers, researchers that have been funded by drug companies, because
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be a bias. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
be looking at particular pharmaceuticals, and I'm not really interested in that line of
Mm-hmm.
treatment. So that can be really challenging. And then there's things like cherry picking that goes on where, for instance, when I worked on marketing plans for pharmaceutical launches, they would often cherry pick the data. So they would pick data that made the drug look great.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to see all the data, which they had to disclose, you would have to go into the prescribing information, which no one does. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I think at the bottom, the bottom line issue is the paper, is it a fair and reasonable assessment? And it does get confusing. I
Well,
think, yeah, yeah,
here's what I love about what's happening today is that there's so many doctors who have converted to be more functional doctors, right? That are
true,
looking at the
true.
whole body, looking at the whole system, and they're open to so many of more of these alternative modalities, right? They're trying to combine the Eastern, way of doing medicine with the Western way of doing medicine. And I do think that if you're one of those people that just believes there's going to be some new drug or some pill that's going to help you cure everything, that's just going to be a really disheartening search because
Mm-hmm.
there's probably
Yeah.
not going to be a pill that cures everything for you. But I do like, I know that we've talked about this a little bit and you have a research science background, so you're a lot more cynical or a lot more mistrusting of some of the stuff than I am.
Skeptical,
But yeah,
skeptical. Yeah.
skeptical, right. And I really believe in like meditation and how powerful that can be, because if you spend a few minutes to clear your mind, and if you're caught up in a worried thought, just take a little break, go rest or go walk, take a walk or something. Just stop thinking those, fearful thoughts. And if you can tune into just quietness and space for a few minutes, maybe even 10 or 15 minutes a day, you're going to all of a sudden start to feel a little bit better and you're going to get a good idea. And what I mean by that is you're going to get an idea that leads you to something that is going to be right for you. So maybe you'll meet the right functional doctor, or maybe you'll see the right research, or maybe you'll just come across, you'll talk to somebody who says, "Oh my gosh, this helped me." Those synchronicities happen all the time and we don't relate it to anything that we're doing. We just think we're lucky that day. But it really is, if you start paying attention, it's based on how you feel. And if you can spend just a few minutes every day, just quieting and, asking for the intuition to come, then you will get the intuition, because everybody's path is different, everybody's journey is different. Even if hormones worked for you, there's probably somebody out there where it didn't work for, and so it's kind of like, how do you know? Well, your body knows, like you said, right? And so you just have to listen to your own gut and your own intuition, and you'll know it. It's kind of like, when you get a good idea and you're like, this is such a good idea. I know that this is such a good idea. No matter what anybody
Yeah.
says, this is a good
Yeah.
idea for me, right? Like, we all have had that, and that's how you want to feel about things, right? And so it's kind of tapping into your inner knowing. And if you're not there yet and you're still confused, it's because you're not spending enough time kind of being quiet so that you will know. And so I think that can be a good way to kind of navigate things. And then when you're looking at these media sources and things, you'll kind of, like, you had a knowing, like, you're like, okay, I'm not going to follow the ones that are supported by these drug companies. That wasn't something somebody told you. That was something that you just trusted and knew, right? So I think that, everybody just kind of has to believe in themselves a little bit more. Stop giving your power away to everybody else and to the doctors and everybody else. And just, believe in your ability to choose things that are going to be right for you. And it could be a little journey. Maybe you try something and then it doesn't work, but then that doesn't work and you can go on to the next thing. And don't be discouraged, because you'll get there if you just keep trying, right?
Sheila, that is a brilliant insight, because at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, that's exactly what got me through. I spend
Mm-hmm.
every morning doing what I call quiet time. And I
Mm-hmm.
just sit quietly drinking a cup of coffee and staring
Mm-hmm.
into space. But I'm also noticing what's coming up that's new in my body, or new,
Mm-hmm.
just like what I'm noticing new in my life generally. And it really served me going through the thyroid experience, because I had been on one regime, it wasn't working, it really destabilized, and I was getting all these other weird symptoms like hypoglycemia. And then I thought, what is this, and what could it be related to? And I'm someone who has always poo-pooed the idea of adrenal fatigue. Like, I don't believe it's a bona fide thing. So, but my body was saying to me,
Mm-hmm.
something's off with your adrenals. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're either not making enough cortisol in the mornings, or you're dropping too low in the evenings. And it was triggering this hypoglycemia. So I started to, like, just okay, stay open, connect the dots, because this is what I'm feeling. And as I did research into that, I realized this is a real thing. And hypothyroidism over the long term can lead to adrenal dysfunction. Your body stops making as much cortisol over the long term, and yes, the cortisol dropping can contribute to hypoglycemia. So it was validated. But I just want to go back to what you said about functional so-called root cause analysis. So this has been a little, I don't know what your experience is here, but I have found that sometimes these practitioners, the alternative practitioners, exploit people's inability to get answers from mainstream medicine and cater to the same mindset. So many of us have been programmed to look for the magic bullet. Like that's the modern medicine approach, right? And even though we think we're looking for a holistic approach, we're looking for the one-shot wonder. We just want the thing fixed. And so a lot of these practitioners come along and they say, well, take this supplement or take this bunch of supplements, do like many, many tests, blood tests, saliva tests, urine tests, whatever it may be, and then we'll get to the bottom of the problem. And I don't see a lot of good root cause analysis. I don't see them really getting to the bottom of the problem. I see them selling a lot of supplements that are frankly at such high doses that they operate like drugs in the body. So they're really disruptive to the body's innate healing mechanism. So I think people have to be very careful about these supplements. So that brings me to another rule, which is when a physician, an alternative physician or practitioner is selling a whole line of supplements, they better have really good reason for why their supplements at the doses, at the formulations that they do sell. I need to be really showing what's going on there. So I'm willing to try something, experiment on myself if there's a good reason for it. But I don't know if you've had really good experience with functional practitioners. Like not one of them got to the bottom of my thyroid condition. I had to do, I don't know, years of study on that to figure it out for myself. And quite honestly, it was patient groups on Facebook and various private, message boards that got me through it, that told me, look at this, check that, read this. And it was sharing symptoms and experience. So the other thing, and then I want to hear what your experience was with that, with providers. But at the end of the day, the other thing I noticed was a lot of them were sending you for these very expensive tests, and they really wouldn't do a whole lot with the tests in terms of interpretation and analysis. And I realized, like, if you look at not only what the reference ranges are on the tests, they don't make a lot of sense a lot of the time because they reflect sicker people. Secondly, a lot of the time their blood levels, for instance, of hormones vary hugely throughout the day. So how do you know what you're really looking at?
Right, because you're testing at that moment, and it's not
Exactly.
giving you a span of the day, it's giving you the results of that moment in that day.
That's right. So it goes back to what you said. It all comes down to how you feel and what you're noticing in your body. Because for me now, if I go in to talk to a doctor, what I want to hear is, they might recommend some blood tests for the hormones, just to get a baseline, a general ballpark of where you're at. But after that, we're going to talk about symptoms, and we're going to modulate the dose based on my symptoms. So I had this one group, and every quarter they wanted to send me back for blood tests on my thyroid. And I said, I don't care what the blood tests say. I don't feel good. And every time you tweak the dose of A, B, or C, it gets worse. So you got to listen to my symptoms, because even if my labs come back and they say everything's in perfect range and I don't feel good, I don't care what you're prescribing. I'm not taking it. So I got into a battle over that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so you've obviously had some better luck with functional
Yeah, well,
providers than I
it's
have.
interesting because I did years ago, I took my daughter to a different functional place and they did just prescribe her supplements. And now I'm just thinking about that. Like for me, the place that I go to is a wellness place, but it's not a functional doctor. It's like functional health coaches. And
Mm,
they are, the health coaches are designed to help you walk through lifestyle changes, not necessarily prescribe medicine, right? So I do feel like I haven't had any blood work done from them at all. I haven't, and the supplements kind of came in organically as their business was evolving. They found that doing a DNA test to find out what your deficiencies are so that you can have a multivitamin that actually targets to what your deficiencies are and what you need. And I totally bought into that. I thought that's great. So I have a multivitamin that I wasn't taking for years, right? But I do think that, we all are looking for, like you said, some sort of supplement or medicine or something, right? To like cure us. But I believe that it's not that it's the lifestyle that what are you doing every day? Because the habits that you do every day make up how you feel. So if you're
right.
finding yourself not exercising, what are you eating every day? Like, not that you need to be super strict and eliminate everything, but I like it when they're like, can you just start writing a journal about so that you can become aware of what you're doing, how you're feeling. Are you exercising? Like, you know, track your steps. Are you moving your body? Because what I've learned is like our lymphatic system is kind of like the garbage system of our body, right? And if you're not taking out the trash and it's accumulating because you're not moving your body, you're not jumping around like you were when you were a kid, it's not detoxifying. Are you having a bowel movement every day? Maybe you're not. That's just another way that toxins stay in your body. And, if you're not ever calming your mind at all and you're in fight or flight chronically all the time, I mean, there's no mammal that can survive in chronic fight or flight and not get sick, right? And so just imagine if you're constantly, back in the day, you're running from a T-Rex, your adrenals, you pump and everything's going to the system so you can run faster, be stronger, whatever. And you run away and then you take a nap and you relax and get back to equilibrium. Well, now it's not the T-Rex, it's the coworker, it's the toxic relationship at home, it's the worry about the future, it's the stressing about finances. We can constantly be thinking thoughts that are putting us into that fight or flight system all day long, every single day. And you do that for a year straight, 2 years straight. When you're young, it becomes a chronic thing that into your, 30s and 40s, all of a sudden, it's no wonder we have disease, it's no wonder. And so you look at our DNA and we're predisposed to certain conditions, but we're downregulating genes all the time so that we're creating disease and getting sick for things. And then we expect a pill to cure that, and we're not going to change any of our lifestyle habits. Like that's just not going to work. So I do think that supplements can help, but you also have to go in with the mind frame of like, what can I be aware of that I'm doing? And what can I change that's going to be, better? If our thoughts can make us sick and downregulate genes, maybe some of our thoughts can upregulate genes and make us feel better too, right?
Mhm.
Like it's so common for people to go notice, gosh, oh, I'm not feeling good. What's wrong? Oh gosh, that symptom wasn't there yesterday. That's wrong. So you're focusing on this negative all day long. But if we're starting to feel better, it's very rare that someone will go, oh, I noticed that I'm feeling a tiny, 2% better today. Like you don't do that because you just expect, you don't notice your arm until it hurts, right? And it's like, we need to notice the things that are going well, because maybe that, thing that's wrong, it's like 1% and 99% of you is working well. So if we just
Yep.
focused on, I am feeling pretty good today. I'm working on this, whatever that's wrong, but I'm noticing that I have a little bit more energy or something. It's very subtle, but just if you can I really do believe if you can put your focus on how you're feeling good, then you're in that space where you can get the good idea to meet the right person, to go take the right supplement that's going to help you to, you're going to be led to the right things, because there are so many options. There's so much confusion, even like with nutrition, there's so much confusion,
Oh,
like, and the thing
completely.
is, there's like over 150 different food theories, and they all worked for somebody, right? So how
Yeah.
do you know what's going to work for you? Because you're a unique person, you have unique DNA, you have unique thoughts, you have unique situation, and so you kind of just have to go with you're not giving your power away. You're going to, take the responsibility, like you said, 100% on yourself. You're going to be aware of what you're doing every day, and you're going to pay attention to when you're noticing when you feel better. And then when you do take a supplement or you meet a doctor, you're going to listen for those intuitive thoughts, are like, is this the right person for me? Are they asking me to take too many tests and I don't want to take blood tests? Or, I just want to have some lifestyle changes first and see how that works, and then maybe incorporate some other stuff. But at the end of the
Hmm.
day, we're searching to feel better, right? That's what we want. We're not, who cares? If the hormones made you feel better, that's what you wanted, right? You don't care that you're on hormones, you just want to feel better. But, if
Well,
somebody, if,
it's interesting that point. So I want to touch on that a bit because a lot of my women friends were kind of upset that I'd gone on hormones. They didn't consider it natural.
hmm,
And even though they were, identical to the hormones I made, um, it just, there was a lot of resistance. And I was trying to explain to them that hormones are probably, along with the neurotransmitters in our brain, the most powerful molecules, compounds in our body. And that they could take, like, say, 16, I've seen herbal formulations like this, 16 different herbs
hmm,
that are supposed to support you as you go through menopause, perimenopause, and menopause. I said you could take that, or you could take estrogen, because
hmm,
estrogen is what we evolved with. It is the power player for a woman. It does everything you need done. It affects so many body systems. We have receptors on every cell for estrogen. So is it better to take these, formulated herbal concoction versus the hormone? Like what is more natural? And then so that was one argument I would pose. And then the other argument was, if you don't go on estrogen, for some women, it's so cardioprotective that if you don't go on estrogen, you set yourself up for cardiovascular disease. And so a lot of women are put on statins, blood pressure medication, and various other drugs to help, protect them from that. So I would argue, like, what is more natural, going on estrogen that your body knows versus going on these drugs? So there's a weird psychology around hormones, and somehow taking these manufactured supplements, because all supplements are synthetic. I don't care where they come from. At the end of the day, they have to be formulated in a lab. Even a lot of the herbal concoctions, how do you think they get to a designation of a percentage of active ingredient in there? It's synthetically created. So, and I'm not against herbs and I'm not against supplements. I'm just very careful about what I put in my body now, and recognize that sometimes it's best to just go to the hormone because your body can't make it anymore. And that's certainly true in menopause. And it's safer actually to just, take the hormone. So
okay, so I'm going to blow your mind a little
yeah,
bit, because I just went to the Joe Dispenza advanced retreat this last week.
yes, yes,
And for those of you
yes.
who don't know who Joe Dispenza is, he is a doctor, and I don't know if he's actually a neuroscientist, but he's been studying neuroscience for years and years and years. And he has a bunch of neuroscientists and doctors and researchers from UCSD on his panel of team that have been literally taking and accumulating data now for the past 15 years on meditation and his style of meditation, and how it actually helps to upregulate your genes, downregulate genes for disease, which is epigenetics, right? And to actually change the actual biochemistry of your blood, to actually change just to upregulate so many factors in your body that you can't deny that this is helpful now. And people are spontaneously healing themselves from all sorts of things going to his retreats. And so it was like life-changing, like amazing. And I feel like all the meditation I've been doing TM, and I've been doing uh Abraham Hicks, and just listening to all those sort of things for years, which I love. And I do think like I found a lot of clarity, and I feel like I have more intuitive knowing, I guess. But I feel like that's kind of like grade school, where Joe Dispenza's form of meditation is like being in high school or graduate school. Like, it's so much more intentional, and he's teaching you the science behind what actually happens to your body when you're meditating. And he has data, and he has all these graphs to show you, because he puts EEG brain caps on the people who are meditating. They've taken blood samples, they've just measured for now 15 years. They've measured the energy of the room when people are meditating together. And it's crazy to see how people can heal their body, because you have an innate ability to heal. So one of the meditations that literally I just did last night was focusing that, he's teaching you how to get into the lower brainwave states. So you go from beta to alpha to theta. And if you can get into theta, that's your subconscious mind. And you're suggestible to information. And what we don't realize is that when we're little kids, we're in delta and theta until we're like, 7 or 8, and then we're in alpha, and that's the creative. That's why, grade school kids are just so creative and intuitive. They want to try everything, right? It's because they're in these different brainwave states. And our analytical mind doesn't start to develop until we're 12, and that's beta. So we're all in beta, and we're all overthinking things, right? We're not getting into our creative intuition, and we're not slowing down, and we're being programmed by TV. We're being programmed by all sorts of things that are programmed for disease. Like, you watch these pharmaceutical commercials, and they're like, showing you shingles virus. It's like a really bad case of it, and then you're late at night and you're so tired. So you're already kind of maybe watching it late, and you're in kind of a theta, mode anyways, because you're about to fall asleep. And then you see this commercial. So you're not really, your analytical brain isn't really turned on. You're shocked by they're like, do you have you had chicken pox? And then look at this disease. And so then you're like, oh my gosh, I've had chicken pox, and I don't want to get shingles. So then they're kind of like priming you.
The
Right,
fear.
the fear.
The
And
fear.
then they're like, you're like, look at that gal. Well, gosh, I look about her age, and she looks healthier than me, and she got it too. You know what I mean? So like, you're kind of thinking
Yeah.
that, and then you're scared of it. And then you're like, I need a shingles virus, and Dr. Joe was talking about how he saw this exact commercial. And at the end, they're like talking about how it's for the prevention of it. But yet someone in the commercial said, I'm taking it on day 17. And he's like, why would you take it on day 17 if it was for the prevention of it? Right. And then, and then they'll say, the side effects really fast. And then like, it can cause this and this and this and all these terrible things, but go talk to your doctor and see if it's right for you. And you're like, what? So like, what world do we live in that, like, there's some countries that don't allow pharmaceutical commercials, but yet in the US, right, we get to be bombarded by all these things that establish fear in us, and we think that we're all going to get these bad diseases, but yet it's the fear itself that's kind of down-regulating genes that's causing not that particular disease, but just creating like the perfect storm for all of that to happen, right? And I just did a meditation last night where literally you're putting yourself in this theta brainwave state, right? By thinking about different parts of your body, listening to this great music. The way he talks about it, it's like you're just focusing on nothing but your body and your brain. So he has you thinking about the pituitary gland, because the pituitary gland is where it's like releasing all of these chemicals. You have a chemical factory in your brain, and it knows how to create all the chemicals you need to heal, but we're signaling the wrong things all the time, right? So if you can get into that state and signal that, for each of your chakras or energy centers going up your body, to kind of focus on each of those centers, and you're in that state. So if I'm not in that state, if I'm in beta and I'm like, okay, I need more dopamine or whatever, that's not going to do anything. But the
Yeah.
fact is you're slowing your brain waves down. You're getting into that state. So you're kind of unlocking your subconscious mind. And then you think that, and then you focus on your body and you're thinking, I'm so grateful and thankful for my pituitary gland that's releasing all the chemicals I need for, each thing. You can actually feel in your body. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but I'm kind of speaking out there, but
Yeah.
you can feel movement in your body. You can feel like when you talk about your heart, I can feel my heart pumping, you know what I mean? I can feel it. And it's because I'm trying to notice it, right? If you try to notice parts of your body. And so you do that for 30, 40, 50 minutes, and you come out of that feeling better. And I'm telling you, the people that have healed themselves are doing that every day instead of stressing out every day. You know what I mean? And then their body just kicks on the chemicals that you need. So when the doctor tells you that you're not producing enough whatever, I mean, most people want the pill because they don't know that you can do something. And even if they know, there's still so many people that are like, I don't got time to meditate, and it's like, well, I don't know. I think that's because they don't believe or, whatever, but there is a possibility. And I just want so much for people to have hope and believe that there's something they can do and go out there, and research and find what's going to work for you.
I think like what you just said is the crux of the matter, and so many women in particular, but of course men too, they live like they're not even in their body, they're always in their head. So they're not feeling, they're not sensing. If a body symptom comes up, the reaction is to shut it down and not honor that piece of information, that sensory experience that is so powerful. There's without a doubt the most transformative and the life-saving thing that I have done is this quiet time, which is a kind of meditation. So I couldn't agree with you more. And I didn't even need to validate the effect of meditation. Like I never researched meditation, even though there's tons of material out there. They've, looked at monks, seasoned monks, and what happens to their whole bodies. And I'm sure like Joe Dispenza is contributing to that whole field now. But I just knew something incredible was going on, and that the information I got when I was sitting in my quiet time, I got from nowhere else, and that it was 100% trustworthy and true for me. And so that's what's always guided me at the end of the day. And yet I needed, we're in a left brain world. I needed to sort of somehow validate it with some science. Like I at least needed to understand the mechanistic idea behind it. Like, Dispenza's trying to figure out, okay, what is really going on here? That's kind of what I was doing too. So that was more about, I don't need to know how the drug works because I'm not doing drugs. I need to know how the hormone works, what it's doing in your body. But you raised something interesting, because right now I'm sort of going through this thing. Like I was told by many specialists, once you're on thyroid medication, you can never get off it. But I have a thyroid gland. Maybe it's not functioning very well, but does it have to always be like that? Is there
No.
a way? Yeah. Is there a way to begin to sort of meditate through to a truly fully functioning thyroid again?
Well, so Joe
And
Dispenza talks
yeah.
about the quantum field, right? And how
hmm
it's actually, if you talk to any quantum physicist, they will tell you that the quantum is all possibilities. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but every possibility,
Yes.
it's all
Yes.
energy. The quantum is basically where all the energy is, that we can't, that's unseen, right? For our world. So if you can
Okay.
learn to quiet your brain waves down, then you can reach the level where you can actually reach for a possibility in the quantum. It sounds crazy, but he has literally so much data that shows that that's what you're doing. And so, but you can't just, how do I phrase this? I mean, so if you're interested, Joe's going to explain it a lot better than I am. I just went to a week-long advanced retreat. But I will say that when you're tapping into this energetic field that has all possibilities, of course, there is a possibility that your gland starts to work again. That is a possibility that's out there, right? So it's tapping into that possibility instead of the possibility that it gets worse and worse and worse, right? And by you worrying about it getting worse, you're tapping into that one. So by you having a little bit of trust and faith that there is an answer for you and that you're going to find it and your gland is going to work someday, then you're tapping into that one, right? And so you just got to pay attention to your thoughts and what you're thinking throughout the day,
Right.
because
Right.
it really does influence your actions and behaviors, right? So what Joe was saying is that we have what, 50, 60, 70,000 thoughts a day. And 90% of them for most people are the same that you thought yesterday. So you can basically be creating, you're like kind of living in the past because you keep thinking the same thoughts you did the day before, right? And so people are constantly feeling like things aren't changing for me. They're staying the same. It's like different faces, different places, but the same kind of things. And it's because you're thinking the same, it's influencing your behaviors. You're doing the same things that you were before. And it's all because of our survival systems wanting to predict the future, wanting to be in the known, because that's scary to be not in the known if you're in survival. But if you can have your quiet time and you can tap into your inner knowing, you kind of you come out of fight or flight. You're getting into that parasympathetic nervous system where you have trust in yourself and trust in the world instead of being so skeptical, right, about everything. You can have a little bit of trust. And once you reach that place, then you're kind of you're just going to be not putting in all those chemicals that are stressing your body out all the time, right? You're kind of on the way of healing, and you're going to get that inner knowing, like I said, that's going to bring you to the things that are going to help you. So yeah, I mean, if you haven't heard of Joe Dispenza, he's all over YouTube. Just go watch whatever. Oh, you know what you will like? There's a new movie coming out, I guess it's been out, but they're going to be promoting it for free this weekend, and it's called The Sources Within You. And it's all about the data and the science of the Joe Dispenza's meditation. So look up The Sources Within You for this last weekend in September, and watch it. I'm excited to watch it because I want to see it. I think you'll really like it because there's going to be two leading research scientists and doctors from UCSD that are explaining all the research of what can happen in 7 days of doing this. It's not like meditating to be a monk for years before you see results. It's like people are having these results in 7 days, that they're lengthening their telomeres and they're upregulating genes. And it's crazy. I mean, crazy cool, but empowering.
Do you have to keep it alive every day with like a daily meditation practice?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I mean, I fully believe that, it is the accumulation of what you do every day that makes up your life, right? So, sure. So what is it that you want to do every day? And once you start to feel calm and you start to just feel better and you associate it with your meditation, then you're not going to want to not do it. You become like, I've become kind of addicted to my quiet time because I know it makes me feel better, right? And so I can see the appeal of monkhood kind of because it's like, but that's for most people, like some of my family thinks I'm crazy, but they're like, what? You're so funny that you would even say that. I'm like, no, because I can actually now sometimes feel energy kind of rushing through me, which I hadn't felt before. And I just think that it's like, it feels so good. Like, wow, and I like feeling clarity, I like having a knowing for sure of what to do. And I like having synchronicities and meeting cool people and that all kind of believe in similar things, believe in yourself and empowerment and believing in being kind and loving to other people. Like, who doesn't want to be around people like that? So I feel like the more meditating I'm doing, the more I run into awesome people like that. So, um,
I love
yeah,
it. I love
yeah.
it. I think people, and I noticed this when with my quiet time practice, like most people have no idea the extent to which they're A, conditioned by the past.
Mm-hmm.
So they live in a box of beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And secondly, how stressed they are. Like
Mm-hmm.
they don't
Mm-hmm.
know that they're in boiling water until they, get out of the pot. So I'm 100% with you on everything you said. It's interesting. One thing I've started to notice with my quiet time is as soon as I have like an idea or a vision, it almost like instantly manifests in the real world. It's very strange, and I'm not sure like what's happening. Maybe what you said earlier, it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're calling up that
Mm-hmm.
particular
Mm-hmm.
possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it started just randomly. Like I would get a vision of something, say stars in the sky. And then that evening I'd be watching a show and it was a scene of kids playing under the stars.
Mm-hmm.
Like this kind of syncing up of
Yeah,
my
but most
mind with
people
the
wouldn't,
world.
most people wouldn't make that connection. You know what I mean? They wouldn't even think that. So that's awesome that you made that connection, because then the signs start to get bigger. Everything starts really subtly. Everything's baby steps first.
Mm,
And once you
okay.
start to notice things, we all want those giant leaps of change, but you're
Yeah,
not going to have it, you're not going to jump over the house. You know what I mean? You're not going to make a giant leap. It's like they're all baby steps, and when you're ready for the next step, it'll come. But I like to think of it like we're in a labyrinth trying to reach, this end thing. And if
yeah,
you come to a dead end, you can stand there, forever, and be stuck,
right,
or you can turn around
right.
and go back where you came from and say that it's not possible, or you can just take a turn and see where it leads you. And if it's a dead end, turn around. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
eventually, if you just
yeah,
keep trying, you'll get there, and you can have a good time along the way, or you can get really frustrated along the way. And I bet you'll make the right turns if you're feeling better than if you're frustrated, right? It's going to take a lot
yeah,
longer and be a lot more frustrating along the way. So why do that to yourself? You know?
exactly. And I mean, what you're saying about this sort of manifestation of whatever's in the quantum field,
Mm-hmm.
it's like there's so much information out there. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
people doing such amazing things. Like you will find an answer to your
Mm-hmm.
question.
Mm-hmm.
And so recently I've been looking at thyroid and diet. And there's, as you said earlier, there's such a debate between veganism,
Mm-hmm.
omnivore, plant-based,
Mm-hmm.
carnivore now. And so I started to, I just put out there this idea of adrenals, hypoglycemia, that whole thing. And then information started answering that question.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, yes, it's very conflicted. It, but, it, but I realized like I need to hear this. I need to sort of assess this. I need to maybe incorporate it in my life and really see if
Mm-hmm.
it helps. So one of the things I started doing, which I'd never done before, I had been a diehard vegan in my younger days, and it did me no good. Like
Mm-hmm.
all my, it made me so weak. So I started adding meat, but very limited. And now, I eat a fair bit of meat and
Mm-hmm.
but I started adding butter to my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Dave Asprey, he had the whole
Mm-hmm.
bulletproof coffee, but I never ate butter. I would eat plant,
Mm-hmm.
like olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed it does something to my brain. Like it's helping support my adrenals. And I think I'm because saturated fat is the source of cholesterol, and cholesterol is used to build hormones.
Mm-hmm.
My body's
Oh,
instinctively
right.
saying, "Oh, yeah, you need some saturated fat because you need cholesterol because you need to build some
Oh,
cortisol, you need to build
right,
hormone."
right, right.
And so it's very interesting. So it kind of like you're saying, it does if you follow it one step at a time. But it is very true. It's very
Mm-hmm.
subtle,
Mm-hmm.
it's very slow, but that's okay because if you're tuned to every little
Mm-hmm.
step, you feel a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's like great because it's better than feeling worse every day,
Well,
right?
and it is
So,
in like 1 or
yeah,
2%. You could feel worse 1 or 2% every day, or you could feel better 1 or 2% every
yeah,
day. And the worst
right.
1 or 2 just learns, it just links to the disease getting worse and worse progressively, right? And it's easy to understand how someone, if you're living in fear and you're worried about it and you're looking up your disease and you're finding all, you basically find the
Yeah,
prognosis and you're like, oh my God, I don't want that to happen to me. But that's what you've activated. That's what you're focused on all the time. So that's kind of what you're bringing into your life. If that's all you're going to think about and talk about and read about and your whole day. So like, don't do that. Like,
yeah,
believe in
yeah.
your ability to heal and surround yourself with other people who believe in that and who have healed themselves so that you can find inspirational stories. Go online and search on stories where people have healed themselves. Listen to the testimonials, find that belief in yourself, and you're going to feel 1 or 2% better, 1 or 2% better. And the accumulation of you finding all of these modalities that can help. Maybe you do acupuncture, maybe you go for a massage, maybe you just go for a walk in nature, maybe you spend some time with your feet in the sand, whatever to make yourself feel a little better. And then say, I feel a little better. And then do it
Hmm.
again the next day. Do something that makes yourself feel a
Right.
little better. You're going to notice that you will be less reactive. It's kind of has a whole body effect where now things don't trigger you as much. I mean, I can tell you that certain people in my life that I found really annoying are funny to me now. It's like, oh, they're just trying to be funny. You know what I mean? Where I was so annoyed before. And that's not them changing, that's me changing,
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that, don't we all want to be happier? And don't we all want to be lighthearted? And don't we all want to just laugh a little bit more? And, so stop watching so much news. Stop, reading all the fear things, and stop talking about all the things that you don't want to have happen and start paying attention to how things are going good and just then see what
So
happens.
I'm curious with your background as a health coach and all you know and all you've been through, aside from the meditation, what would you say your top three uh like indispensable habits, daily habits would be to support this mind view you just described and your body?
Okay, well, I have to say, even though I studied to be a health coach, I didn't ever practice being a health coach.
Okay.
So I see,
Okay.
I see health coaches like that help me, and so, but I've just been on this constant like learning journey. I think that one of the one of the top 3 things that I guess I do every day is I feel like it's really important to have an open mind and to be like a lifelong learner, just to kind of have that mindset that like I'm on a learning journey. I'm going to learn everything I can. Like when I talk to somebody, I don't need to convince them of anything. I want to learn where they're from and learn where they're at. And then maybe I'm going to be the person that gives them a little insight if they're wanting it to what has happened on my journey, and maybe it will help them. But maybe they'll help me because maybe it's something that they're sharing that I'm looking for, And so I do think that I'm constantly reading books, I'm constantly learning things, and I love that I'm learning things. Every time you learn something new, you're actually creating neural pathways in your brain. And you can let those will dissipate if you're not remembering them and talking about them with people. And it's kind of like if you have a well-worn path and those are your limiting beliefs, you know, but you learn
Yeah.
something new, it might be a little bit of a struggle because it's like you're carving a new path in the woods, right? But the more you carve that path, then you're less likely to go down the path of the well-worn beliefs, right? So once you know that, it's like, okay, I'm sparking new neural pathways, I'm learning new things that's inspiring me to meet new people, to do new things. Then you're creating change in your life because you're changing what you're doing. You're not repeating what you're doing every day, right? So that
Hmm.
in itself is going to kind of make you feel better. The second thing I do is I meditate. I think
Mm.
that is, and whether you call it quiet time or whatever, it's not taking a nap, although naps can be fine. It's being consciously awake and quiet at the same time. And a lot of people, will say, it's really hard because I'm thinking of things, and that's okay because that's just your body releasing those thoughts. If you just don't pay attention to them when you're in your quiet time, just think, I'll think about those later, and just keep coming back to just being quiet. And if it's staring at a fire, staring at water, or listening to your AC, or listening to a TikTok of the clock, just something so boring that it helps you not think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can do
Mm-hmm.
that for a few minutes and just have quiet time, you'll find that I literally am addicted to it. So I love it so
Great.
much. There's no way I'm not going to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what's the third thing? I think that drinking water is probably my
Mm.
third thing. And I've gone up and down, but literally I think that, our bodies are made up of so much water, and having fruits with water and green vegetables, and just making sure that, because I used to, before, I can go a whole day of just being so involved in my work that I barely eat and barely drink anything. And that's like creating sludge in your blood. And imagine if you have toxins in there. It's like a murky creek that's not running. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You need to
Mm-hmm.
put that water in your body so your blood can flow, so you can flush out those toxins, and it's good for you, and I'm learning too, I need to breathe more. So I guess drinking water and taking deep breaths would be so good for you
Mm-hmm.
to do every day. Getting
Mm-hmm.
outside in nature, taking a walk. I walked this past week a lot more than I walk regularly because I work from home. So I'm like, I walk to the fridge and I walk to the desk, I'm not
Yeah.
walking. And so even though I'm driving to my exercise class and driving to yoga, I'm still not walking. So I think that going outside and doing some jumping jacks outside, or doing something to
Mm-hmm.
move my body a little bit more outside, would be
Mm-hmm.
good. But so those
Mm-hmm.
are more than three
Yeah.
things, but
That's great.
yeah,
That's
I
great.
think that it's the doing the things rather than, you notice I didn't say take my supplements, although I think those are important. I think if I had to lose anything, I would rather do those three things first: learning new things, meeting new people, um and meditating, and then drinking my water, and
Yeah.
getting outside. I think
Yeah.
those are most important to do every day, because
That's
sometimes,
huge.
yeah.
Yeah. Engagement in the world and talking to
Mm-hmm.
other people like that,
Mm-hmm.
that keeps you more vital than any supplement you could ever take. Like
Mm-hmm.
I would, yeah, there's no question of that. The only thing I would add to that, I think that's a wonderful list. And you alluded to it, but I do have a very like if I had to choose between nutrition and exercise, I would always choose exercise first.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to sort of prioritize only one, um, and I do believe in like weightlifting, so I've been
Mm-hmm.
doing that quite consistently, alternating with walking and being
But you know
and
what?
always
They
walking
say that your
outside.
diet is like 70% of it. And as we get older, if we're not moving our muscles, we're losing our muscles, right? So it's really important to do
Yeah.
some lightweight training or something. Like I do bar. And so we do a little bit of, it's like all those little muscles, and we're doing some lightweight training, which I think is going to be really good for me because I just started back doing that. So that is important too. But I do think that nutrition would probably be the fifth thing. And I was vegan for 7 years, but I had my blood or my DNA tested, and I don't get
Mm-hmm.
enough B12. Like I don't methylate Bs very well. So for me, not taking B12 supplements, not taking any vitamins, and being vegan for 7 years, and
Yeah.
knowing that I don't detox well, and I had my blood tested, I had Agent Orange and uranium in my blood. Isn't that crazy? And the
That's
doctor
crazy.
couldn't even tell me why or what to do with that. And it wasn't until my
Yeah.
functional counselor saw that and said, oh, well, those are movement disorders. Those are da 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 da, and it explained my health condition a lot more. So it's kind of like, wow. I don't, so it is what it is, and it's fine. I feel like I am where
Right.
I am today because of the journey I've gone on. So I would never want anything to change. But knowing that going forward, it's like, I am going to make sure that I eat leafy greens and fruits and vegetables more often.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to have a source of protein, and that's fine, but I do want to, and I have cookies and ice cream every once in a while. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want to be so
Yeah,
rigid about everything, but I also want to
right.
pay attention. Certainly if I had an ice cream and then don't feel good, then okay, maybe that was not good for me, right?
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
just nothing feels better than being healthy, right? So like,
yeah, 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 exactly.
I don't the ice skipping on the ice cream or the cookies or the chips, or like I love guac and chips. But but like I'm not gonna over binge on those things because then I know that I won't feel really good, or having a lot of fried foods don't make me feel good. So I just want to feel healthy. So I'd much rather focus on feeling healthy, and then I'm not even missing those things.
Exactly.
So
It's not a sacrifice at all.
right, right.
What what about fiber? Do you just get fiber from your diet or you take it
I think
externally?
I have like green smoothies, and I have like kale
Yeah,
salads and things like that. So I don't think I'm missing out on the
right.
fiber. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. One
Yeah.
thing I learned recently, I was looking at Dr. Lustig, who's done a lot of work on glucose metabolism, fructose, and all that. And
Hmm.
I mean, he's really got me off sugar and very mindful of fructose coming out of fruit. But um, one thing he said that really struck me, because I used to do a lot of smoothies, and
Hmm.
I would put berries in my smoothies and pulverize them in the Vitamix. And
Hmm.
he pointed out that as that's like drinking fruit juice, because you've destroyed the fiber in, blending it so vigorously. So you've got nothing slowing down the entry of the fructose into your bloodstream. And I thought, oh man, I was doing like fiber, not fiber, fruit smoothies like every morning. I thought,
I don't
I
think
got to
that's wrong with
rethink
that.
this.
Like, I don't know, because I don't know. I like the fruit juice is definitely different than fruit smoothie. There's still a fiber in there. I don't know if I believe that. And
Well, there you break down, he was saying you break down the fiber so much, and you do, like the Vitamix breaks down everything. It
oh, that
just,
it's just more digestible. It's easier to digest, so you're not spending as
but
much
that,
time digesting it.
yeah, the fiber
Yeah.
technically slows down the entry of
Hmm.
the fructose and the glucose into the system, and that helps the body, absorb it and not have such an insulin spike. But I don't know. So that was just like you're saying, you got to keep learning, be open to these things, and really consider what's going on. And uh, the other thing I've started doing, and I've done it on and off for many years, is dry brushing.
Oh, yeah, that
And
helps your
oh,
lymphatic
it's
system.
yeah, it feels so good. I
Hmm.
can't believe how great it is. So
Yeah.
I just, and sometimes I'll do it in the shower as well, but that's been
Yeah.
a real benefit. And then, in speaking of hydration, I was reading a couple of books about how to add electrolytes in without having to buy this packaged stuff. And one guy was recommending a little bit of baking soda, a little bit of salt in your water. And
Hmm.
and I actually have been doing that, and I guess it gives you the right osmolarity, the right kind of, you know, um, chemical distribution in your water so that you can absorb it properly. And that kind of makes a difference. And I add
Well,
a little lime juice.
baking soda makes it more alkaline. I have a hydrogen alkalinizing water system. So it
Yeah.
basically runs it on these titanium plates so that it's kind of like a
Oh,
creek running. So it makes
okay.
the electrons like alive, like live, like literally when
Hmm.
she showed it to me, she put the thing in the water and it turned on the light bulb because it's like
Wow.
alive water. And it is super antioxidant, like better than wild blueberries, better than da 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 da. So it has healing properties in of itself.
Hmm.
So
That's
anyways,
interesting.
that's the water
Never
that
heard
I
of
drink
that.
all the, yeah, it's actually called
What is that?
Kangen. It's Kangen water.
Kangen. Okay,
Yeah,
I
and
have heard of
they
that. Yeah.
started in Japan because they like were having them in hospitals or something, and then they brought it to the States. And anyways,
Okay.
I feel like it's been really good water for me. And I call it
Cool.
the water store where I go because she started as the water store, but she's kind of a wellness clinic now. But so many people come there and it's like it's helping them with all sorts of ailments that they're having. So,
So
um,
I'm curious, what do you think about biosensors and things like CGMs, continuous glucose monitors? Have you got into this
mm-mm.
sort of biometric analysis of what's going on in your body and sleep
No,
cycles?
you know what? It's because I've been a little bit worried about having too many EMFs. But I did just buy this
Ah,
one biosensor, which I'm super excited about. It's from the Heart Math Institute, and you put it on your ear, and when you
mm-hmm.
meditate, it tells you if you're getting into heart and brain coherence. Like you'll have a
Okay.
little cue. And heart and brain coherence is when things are, it's like imagine a crowd clapping not in unison versus a crowd clapping in unison. So being
Yes.
in unison is when your pathways are open, when your body's allowing the healing energy to come. So, you want to be in heart and brain coherence, and you're not in heart and brain coherence when you're in beta brain waves and you're just talking and doing things, right? You're only in that heart brain coherence when you slow your brain waves down, you're right about ready to sleep, you're tired, you're meditating or having your quiet time. So I'm excited about getting
Mm-hmm.
this sensor because I'm going to get instant feedback to know if I'm doing it right.
Can
Right?
you see it visually? Do they show
Yeah,
you
it's an
your heart
app on your
rate?
phone. I
Yeah.
think, but you
Oh,
don't,
cool.
you're not going to be looking at it while you're meditating, but it'll like ting you, like, or bing, like
Mm,
ding you a little bit. So you'll know that
like,
you're there. And then
yeah.
what someone told me is that once you get there and you're there all the time, you can change the frequency of it. So you can make it a little bit harder so that you have to go deep. So
Wow.
I was like, that's really
Huh.
cool. It's from the Heart Math.
And
So I'm
and
excited to
that
get
would
it.
be that's really cool because they've been around for a long time. That's a good company. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're in that state, can you assume like you're also in theta, the deep
Yeah,
wave?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so
Okay.
that's when you're supposed to be then have setting your intentions for what you want, or, thinking about your body and thinking about the healing energy that's flowing through your body, and or thinking about abundance, or, whatever is in the
Yeah.
possibility that's in the quantum. And you're basically, when you're doing that, then you're rewriting your subconscious brain so that you start attracting those things to yourself. And so that you're also going to be more intuitive to start taking action towards things that will actually be helpful to you, right?
Cool.
So
I think that's
super cool.
awesome.
Hmm.
That's really neat. I think that I love that. I think the most important lesson I've learned through all this health stuff is being there's value in everything. And when you like orient your mind to look for the silver lining, like no matter what disaster you're in, like I
Hmm.
look at, people often say they go through life-threatening illness. Like I look at my eating disorder and the menopause and all that stuff, and I thought they were incredible teachers. Like
Hmm.
I have learned so much, not just about myself, but about the way the world works and about the medical system. It's like nothing could substitute for that real world experience that all
Hmm.
came from, just listening and following my own direct experience. So, yeah, it's really cool. But you have to believe there's good there,
Hmm.
Like if you're negative, you shut down. You
Well, and that's
never
what you're going to
move
see
forward.
everywhere, right? Those
Yeah,
are the glasses
yeah.
you have on, so that's what you'll notice, and
It's
that's what
always
you'll
a dead
see.
end. Exactly.
Hmm.
And right now, like being online, like I really just like being online, like reading online and social media. Like it's I'm noticing what a stress it is for my body and
Hmm.
really having to just like not have a life online, even though that's
Hmm.
really hard. So yeah,
Well,
it's a crazy world.
yeah, I mean, just if you're gonna do it, take it in doses and manage your
Yeah,
time on there so that you
right.
still can be a part of it if that's what you want to do. But don't do anything that just makes you feel bad for too many hours in the day because
Yeah,
that's what you're
exactly.
attracting to you. So, oh my gosh, I
Exactly.
feel like we could talk for hours because
Yeah, yeah.
we're already over time, but like I love our conversation. I'm so excited that you're going to be co-hosting with me.
I can't
So
wait.
I
I
know.
can't
So
wait.
we'll do
We're
some
gonna meet.
episodes
Yeah.
together, but I think you can
Yep.
do some of the ones that are just health oriented together, and I'll do the healthy home ones for sure. And but we can co-host for things together. I think it'll be great. And I love our conversation. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
me
coming on,
too. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
thank you
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much.
Oh, thanks, Sheila. To it's great to connect and share our experiences because sometimes you feel a little alone out there. So
Yeah.
great to know this. All right. Take care.
You too.